So we're finally here. That period that was once known as E3 that is ever changing to a more siloed suite of showcases, ranging from the Summer Game Fest to Ubisoft's show that's running and Microsoft's showcase. Those are just to name a few. We've got Capcom doing a showcase and everyone just seems to be having their own, and even showing trailers to show off a showcase. I've said showcase so much, wow. Okay, well, without a doubt, we are in showcase season, and to kick things off was Jeff Keighley with his Summer Games Fest. Personally, going into this show, I wasn't really expecting any world-shattering announcements, but more to get some further insight into many of the games that have been previously announced. And on this front, I do feel like this showcase in particular did mostly deliver. But I understand that some people were expecting a little bit more and left feeling a little disappointed. So the goal of this video is to mainly just identify, for better or worse, games that left an impression on me, and to discuss overall my feelings about what we saw. So with that out of the way, let's dive into the Summer Game Fest for 2023. So kicking the show off, we will see the surprise reveal of a new Prince of Persia game called Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. This latest entry sees the series harken back to its roots, being a 2D side-scrolling platformer. This will be launching on the 24th of January, so it'll be coming early next year, and this game looks really interesting. It caught my eye. I really like the visual presentation, and I like the fact that it's something different from what Ubisoft have been doing in the past with Prince of Persia, kind of going back to what the game originally was before Ubisoft acquired it. It still does have that Sands of Time aesthetic to it and still looks really cool, and I'm interested to see what they do with it, and it's good to see Ubisoft taking steps to revive this once beloved IP, and at least it's something for fans of Prince of Persia whilst they wait for the remake of Sands of Time, which at this point just feels like it's in purgatory and never really coming. So overall, I'm interested in this one, and I'll be checking it out next year when it comes to January 24th. So moving on, the next thing that we saw was a gameplay trailer for Mortal Kombat 1, where we got to look at the gameplay and also see the fatalities. We saw Ed Boon, one of the creators of the series, take to the stage and discuss the narrative reasons for the game being labelled Mortal Kombat 1, and how the timeline has been reset, and what implications that'll have on the story and many of the different fighters. But more importantly, he went in depth on this new feature called the Cameo feature, which is found in Mortal Kombat 1, where you can call in one of the members of the roster as a support character and utilize their abilities during combat. It works similar to like a feature. It reminds me a bit of like Marvel vs. Capcom, but like not really like calling them in. You're more just like tagging them temporarily to use an ability and then they just jump back out. It's pretty cool, and it's a different direction for Mortal Kombat. I've played majority of the games, the mainline ones at least, and also played Shell and Monks way back in the day, and whilst I never did play these games competitively or on a super deep level, it was always a fun experience to dabble with, and just trying to experiment and execute those fatalities. It'll be interesting to see what NetherRealms have in store for us, but the most recent trailer really does have me intrigued, and this year is shaping up to be a good year for fighting game fans, with the recent success of Street Fighter 6 telling a great story, and now Mortal Kombat 1, 2023 is looking to maintain its momentum, and fighting game fans are eating well this year. Speaking of Street Fighter 6, there was a promotional crossover that was announced between Street Fighter and Capcom's upcoming dinosaur horde-based game Exoprimal. This collab between the two games will see Cyborg Ryu and Guile hitting Exoprimal. So for anyone who's interested in that, that'll be coming your way in July once Exoprimal is out. And honestly, I'm hoping that this game lands. It's a cool idea and has an interesting premise, and it does look like something that would be up my alley. Nothing like shooting a bunch of dinosaurs that are just falling from the sky whilst you're in a bunch of different mechanized robots. It's pretty cool, and I'd be on board for it, and I'm hoping that this game does have a lot of success. And given Capcom's recent track record with a lot of the different games they're releasing, they haven't really missed with any of their games. So them taking a bit of a risk with this one, it's a bit of a good idea, and I'm really hoping that it pays off for them. So we'll see how that lands in July. The next thing we'd see is a trailer for Path of Exile 2. We'd see a trailer for a conference regarding Path of Exile 2, where we'd be greeted to 20 seconds of gameplay mainly, and then be provided a date for this conference where we'd get to see more information. I'm not really too familiar with Path of Exile, but for those interested, it will be taking place on the 28th of July. Not really much else was provided in this respect during this showcase, so I'll just move along. Speaking of collabs that we were just discussing before, another collab that we'd see early on in the Summer Games Fest would be a crossover between Nicolas Cage and Dead by Daylight. It wouldn't be an event hosted by Jeff Keighley if we didn't see at least one big name or celebrity make an appearance here. But what else can you say and what else could you want in a video game besides Nicolas Cage? I mean, come on, the guy is a national treasure. Wait. This update will be available come July 25th for Dead by Daylight fans. So you have a date now for when you can play as Nicolas Cage and get your hands on that expansion, July 25th. Lock it in. Next up will be the next game that was shown and looked to bring some high octane action. Check this out. This is Witchfire, a first-person shooter that is set in a grimdark world that is in the middle of a war between witches and the church. You play as a witch hunter called a prayer, and you'll be on a mission from God wielding weapons and forbidden magic. This game looks sick, man. It's gritty, gothic, gore, all that good stuff, and you're also juggling magic with guns. What a cool mixture. I mean, what else could you really ask for? This game looks like no nonsense and just a cool, fast-paced shooter, and I'm all for it. If we're getting a game where it's kind of like Doom, but it's witches instead of demons, then hey man, I'll take it. Witchfire will be arriving this September, and at this point it looks like it'll be an Epic exclusive. At the time of this video, I tried looking it up on Steam and I can't see any release date or anything to confirm it'll be coming to the platform, so stay tuned on that in future videos. Next up is the next game that was revealed, and this one really pleasantly surprised me. Check it out. Sonic Superstars is a 2D Sonic game that is being developed by Sonic Team. Honestly, I love this. I always loved the 2D Sonic games. They were like games that I grew up on. I never really got into the 3D Sonic games. Not that I didn't like them, they weren't really a part of my childhood. So seeing the Sonic team go back to this and, you know, take influence from what was done with Sonic Mania, it's great. And it's clear here that the demand for 2D Sonic games is in need. And it's great to see that Sonic Team return and make a return to go back to 2D games and going to their roots. It really just looks like a fun game. I'm really liking all the different types of levels they have here. The movement looks great, the visuals look nice. I'm not a diehard Sonic fan by any stretch, but to me, this really caught my eye, and honestly, I'm super excited, and I probably will be picking this one up. I think it's cool, fun, and everything I'd want out of a Sonic game. It looks like it's got cool ideas and plays on the momentum of Sonic, and it has a nice little visual charm to me that appealed to me, and feels like a fresh take on what the game was in the 90s, but modernized, and I'm all for that, man, and it's good to see Sonic getting some love. The next game that we'd see is the upcoming Lies of P, and honestly, with each additional trailer that they release, the more I become intrigued of how this game's gonna land and what it will be. I love the setting, I love the concept. The idea of putting Pinocchio in not only a Baroque period, but also a Souls-like is wacky and wild, and I'm here for every second of it. Lies of P will be releasing on September 19th, and I'll be sure to be covering it here on the channel. So if you're interested in that and seeing that type of review, maybe consider hitting that sub button. But here's some good news for those who can't wait to get their hands on the game. There is a free demo currently available for Xbox, PlayStation, and PC that is available today. So yeah, you can get your hands on that and test it out and see if it's for you. I know I will be once I get this video out, and I'll check in with you guys with some impressions hopefully later in the week. This next game really caught my eye. It's called SandLand, and the one thing that really stood out to me was its art style. And if it looks familiar to you, that's because it's being handled by Akira Toriyama, the creator of Dragon Ball. The visual presentation for this game is spot on and looks sick. I was really vibing with this game throughout the whole trailer going, man, that looks mad. However, the actual gameplay itself still feels a little ambiguous. I'm not entirely sure what this game is or what it's going to be, what the loop is for this one, but I'm am keen nonetheless, just by the visuals alone, to see what else may come when we do get more information. At the time of this video, the game has no release date, but I'll be sure to keep you posted once we do have one. The next game that was shown was Throne and Liberty, which is an MMORPG that is being developed by NCS Soft and published by Amazon. This trailer was mostly a cinematic with a few moments of gameplay littered in there. Personally, one that I probably won't get around to in the near future, and I'm a little skeptical on. The gameplay that was shown in the past looked really cool, and it's looking to have a similar style to a game like Black Desert. It gives me that type of vibe, but I'd say beware that many people who have gotten their hands on this game early have reported a few concerns and issues with this one, particularly with the combat. So I'd consider maybe waiting on a review or more information from a trusted reviewer or someone who is in that MMO community to give you the all clear on this one, or brush up on the information a bit more, because I've been hearing a few things about this and I'm hoping that it is good. It does look kind of cool, and a lot of the trailers and promotional material for this game is pretty cool, but I'd say be skeptical nonetheless until the full game releases, particularly with the fact that this is an Amazon game, and even if there are issues at launch, I don't trust Amazon to stick with this if it doesn't land. So with all that in mind, I would say a bit skeptical on this one. I mean, take what I say as you will, and you know, if you're looking forward to it, that's great, and I'm really happy to be proven wrong, but that's just how I feel about this one. The next game that was shown off was a fantasy brawler called Warhaven. I'm still not quite sure what this game is. It looks like a game like For Honor, but like jacked up to the max, where it's like a big ass battlefield where you're all fighting and there's like heaps of people. Just from what we saw, it was like 20 people on a rooftop fighting. I'm not sure if they're all like some of them are NPCs or if some of them are actual players and what's the go there, but we won't have long to wait to clear up any of these questions, as Warhaven will be available at the upcoming Steam Next Fest event, and I'll definitely be getting my hands on it to clear up any of these questions I have, and I'll report back here on the channel with some of the updates that I've found. Next, would see Sam Lake come on stage to further discuss more about Alan Wake 2, and would get a short gameplay segment where we are playing as the new character, Saga, investigating one of the ritualistic murders in an abandoned woods. The gameplay was brief, but it left me wanting more nonetheless. It was really interesting and it had a really cool style to it, and so far Remedy are just doing Remedy and they're going balls to the wall, and it looks really cool, and I'm really excited to see how this game plays out. And I'll confess, although I own it, I haven't had a chance to play the first Alan Wake game yet, so that's something I want to cross off my backlog this year, particularly before Alan Wake 2 arrives. So, Alan Wake 2, it has a release date, and that is October 17th. So if this is one you're looking forward to, make sure to jot that down, maybe hit that pre-order, whatever you need to do, but October 17th is your date. Up next, we got some gameplay for the upcoming Warhammer Space Marine 2. Man, Warhammer fans have been eating real good recently with the recent release of Boltgun and now Space Marine 2. The trailer had a really strong emphasis around the co-op aspects of the game, where you can play with up to 3 friends, and whilst I have only really dipped my toes in the Warhammer universe, this looks to be like a super fun game. And it looks like a great game that you could probably just play with people even if you're not familiar with the Warhammer lore or stories or universe. It just looks like a great good time where you're just mowing down enemies and chilling with your mates. So it currently doesn't have an official release date, but it is slated to release around winter. So I'll be sure to keep you posted on when we get an official date locked in, but for now, just know that it's coming. The next game that would be graded to is Yes Your Grace Snowfall. And this is a simulator where you rule as a king and lead a kingdom, and based on your actions, things play out in different ways, whether you go to war, the kingdom falls, or different sim elements. And yes, this is a sequel to Yes Your Grace, which released back in 2020. I'll be honest, I wasn't even familiar with this series at all prior to this showcase. Now I'm pretty keen to even give the first game a try before diving into this one, which doesn't have an official release date yet, but can be wishlisted on Steam. I'm just curious to see all the crazy different things you can do and all the different pathways that you can lead as you rule as king, and how short or long your reign can go based on your actions and just how many different paths there are that are mapped out in this game. Also, I really like the art style and it is so charming. It just looks so cool. And this is definitely one that I want to check out at some point, but as I mentioned before, no official release date, can be wishlisted on Steam, and there is a prequel game that you could dive into if you just can't wait. This next game comes from John Carpenter, the creator behind such classics as Halloween and The Thing. This game is called Toxic Commando, and it has a trailer that had a mixture of both cinematic and some windows of gameplay elements here, with what looks like a first-person shooter spliced with some horde elements. It looks like a good game that you can just boot up and enjoy with your friends, and it has that kind of zombie, monstrous kind of vibe where you're just killing demons and monsters and stuff with your friends in an open world kind of setting. That's what I at least took from it. It's a game I might play at some point just to have fun with some friends, but other than that, this one was kind of just didn't really click with me too much. I'm a bit indifferent on it, but if this is a game that you are looking forward to, then the only real information I have for you is that it's slated to release in 2024. There is no official release date locked in for this, and it currently isn't even on Steam to be wishlisted. So once we get a few more dates and actual hard dates locked in, be sure to check back on the channel and I'll have that ready for you to go. But you know what is around the corner? Larian Studios' new game, which would make an appearance showing off a new character here, and that is Baldur's Gate 3. It's close to reaching its 1.0 release, with the new character being added to the game, Envar Gortash, who is being voiced by Jason Isaacs. Many fans are excited for the full release of this game, and I can totally understand why. Larian Studios have put out many games over the past few years that people have adored, such as Divinity Original Sin 2. Baldur's Gate 3 will see its full release on August 31st, and I'm really hoping that Larian Studios get all the cred and all the love from this game and it actually just pops off and does really well, because this game has been in the work and been iterated on, developed and worked on for a while, since 2019 I believe, so it'll be good to see this game finally hit its 1.0 release and deliver its full game and a new Baldur's Gate game that people have been looking forward to for ages. One nice announcement that we would receive during the Summer Game Fest is an official release date for Spider-Man 2, which we saw the long extensive gameplay at the Sony conference, but it's now locked in at the Summer Game Fest with an official release date, that being October 20. So there isn't really much else on the front of Spider-Man 2 to really discuss regarding this announcement other than its release date, which is October 20, and the fact that they had one image with Miles and Spider-Man both fighting Venom. But it's nice to finally know when we will get our hands on the Spider-Man game, and I'm all on board for it. I really liked the first Spider-Man game, and it's been too long since the second sequel. But I'm here waiting patiently, and I can wait a little longer, and I'm excited for it. Okay, so the next game is an idea that every kid has had at some point. What if we gave Pokemon guns? I mean, it's not a bad idea, right? I mean, it didn't work for Shadow the Hedgehog, but Pokemon, right? Maybe. Palworld is an open world Pokemon style game where you shoot the monsters to weaken them and then you catch them. At least that's how I assume it works, the gameplay loop. Not 100% on that. The game does look fun, at least for the novelty reason of shooting and having Pokemon that you can kind of shoot with a gun and all that type of stuff. I'll take anything at this point really. It's just something to nudge Game Freak to be a little more competitive and creative. Palworld is an interesting one. I'm curious to see how this game lands on release, how fun it'll actually be, and if I've got to wonder really if Nintendo's lawyer team is strapping up being like, dude, I gave you my notes, but I told you not to copy my homework, you know? So this is a little bit too close. But we'll see how that one pans, and I'm really interested to see how this game lands on release. More competition for Pokemon means more of a nudge that Game Freak actually needs to make something that slaps and just goes the distance. I mean, we have a lot of games that are really building on the Pokemon formula, with games such as Temtem and the more recent Cassette Beasts. It is really great to see people really just develop and take these basic roots of that formula in strides and build and evolve on it. I'm really curious to see where Palworld falls in that equation, as right now it just really does seem like Pokemon with guns. Only time will tell, and I'm here for it. If you are looking forward to Palworld, be sure that early access for this game will be available early 2024. So keep that in mind going forward. Okay, so the next game. After the widespread success of the Lord of the Rings Golem, we'd see another Lord of the Rings game centered around the dwarfs called Lord of the Rings Return to Moria. Okay, jokes aside, this is under development from a different studio that worked on the Golem game. But I'll be honest, I need to see more about this game. I do like the base building elements of the game, and I do think a lot of what they're putting down here does look like it could appeal to me, and I do think it could make for a good game. Again, I will have to see more here, and it doesn't look as rough around the edges as Golem did when it was initially revealed, but I would just be interested to get a bit more info on what this game is and what it aims to be. Only time will tell with this one, but I would say I'd be optimistically cautious and just like, I'm hoping it's good, but I'm also a bit skeptical. It really is an interesting moment in time to see Lord of the Rings games being made that aren't under this AAA umbrella, especially when you look at a lot of other big IP that comes from movies. I'm thinking like, you know, your Marvel games, like we just discussed Spider-Man. But not only that, you see the Star Wars games with the recent Jedi Survivor, and even Fallen Order a couple of years back, and more recently Hogwarts Legacy. It's crazy to see not more games that follow suit like Shadow of Mordor in the Lord of the Rings world, but more these small little bite-sized games such as Golem, which I don't know if I'd even call that a game at this point, and this Return to Moria, which is a more smaller scoped idea where you are working on base building and in the Lord of the Rings world, but isn't a very cinematic and AAA focused Lord of the Rings game. And I don't mean that to throw shade at this Return to Moria game. That game could be totally fun, and I'm all for it if it is. But it's just interesting to just see this IP not be going down that AAA route. But who knows, by the end of this year we could be singing its praises and we could have had a good Lord of the Rings game under our belt, as Lord of the Rings Return to Moria is slated to release in the fall of this year. We'd be teased in this next moment. Take a look here. Yes, everyone thought they'd be seeing the second part to Final Fantasy VII's remake, but it was actually a trailer for Final Fantasy Ever Crisis, which is supposed to be a mobile game that I thought was originally meant to tell the events of the original Final Fantasy story, but now appears to be telling the broader stories of the Final Fantasy VII universe. It does look like it could be fun, and you're able to pre-register for it now. I think for now, I'll just sit back and see how it plays out. And at this point, I'm going to be honest with you. As much as I love the remake, and I don't mind what they're doing here with Ever Crisis, I just wish we could have some form of a faithful remake of Final Fantasy VII, as whilst the original is still so iconic and classic, it would be great to just see it get some form of a facelift while still holding all the core story elements and factors of the gameplay that were integral to the original game. Anyway, Ever Crisis is ready to be pre-registered for if you're interested in it. And once that trailer ended, we would also hear Jeff tease us with this.
Now, speaking of Final Fantasy, no. Today during Summer Game Fest, DoorDash has your back. You can get a free burrito when you...
Damn you, Jeff. You built us up just to knock us down. Or did he? More on that later. Okay, so this next one really got the blood pumping. Yes, RGG have given us another trailer for Like a Dragon Gaiden, the man who erased his name. So this is a spin-off game in the Yakuza series, Like a Dragon, following Kiryu Kazuma as he's trying to hide his identity but ends up getting wrapped up in a bunch of crazy mishaps that tend to always just follow him wherever he goes. So from what we've seen in terms of the gameplay for this, it seems to be returning to form with the more brawler-based combat that we've seen in the first 6 games that followed Kiryu, and this game is slated to release on November 9th this year. Honestly, I'm all in on this one. I love the Yakuza games and I've played most of them, and I am just keen to get my hands on more of them, and I'm definitely going to have a review up on this one when it comes out in November. Definitely excited to see what else RGG has. Also, worthy little side note just to mention, if you are an RGG fan and you're not aware, that they will be having their own showcase on the 16th of June. So tune into that if you're looking for more on this game potentially and what else they have in the pipeline in the future. Banishers Ghost of New Eden was a game that got announced at the Summer Game Fest and is an action RPG that is slated to release around the end of 2023. This is being developed by Don't Nod Studio, the one behind Life is Strange, Vampire, and Remember Me. This is one that I'll get around to checking out at some point, but it isn't necessarily one that really piqued my interest straight away. But I understand different strokes for different folks, different tastes per person. So if you want to see what the latest for this studio is, it's this game, Banishers. Again, there's no hard release date on this one yet, but I'll be here to let you know once we get an official release locked in. FaeFarm, it's the latest farming simulator game that appears to be juggling a lot of the town management aspects of a game like Animal Crossing with dungeon crawling resource management. It's picking up where games like Moonlighter left off. The game has a very nice visual style too, and it is a good cozy game to unwind with. I'm curious to check out this one, and it'll be available on the Switch, and FaeFarm is also on Steam, and I'm going to bet good money that it's also going to be Steam Deck verified. So if you're looking to kick back with some cozy farm sims, this one will be available on September 9th. Next up is King Arthur Legends Rise. So this game had a nice cinematic trailer with some little snippets of gameplay at the end. This is a PC and mobile game and currently has no official release date. I'll be honest with you, this one really didn't click with me. It did have a nice visual cinematic trailer, but the game itself, I'm just not clicking with it. It just gives me like Raid Shadow Legends vibes and feels like something that was made for mobile and also runs on PC. I don't know, I just need to see more about it and how it plays, but from the images and things that I've saw and what we saw in that gameplay trailer, it just did not gel with me. And I just want to see a few other things first before really endorsing it. I'd have to see how it actually plays, the moment-to-moment gameplay. And I'd also be curious, given that this game is looking to be more a mobile game that runs on PC than a PC game that's also on mobile. I'd be curious to see how it handles monetization with that in mind. I'm sure that this game will be some people's jam, but maybe it just isn't for me. But again, if you're into it and you're having fun, I'm happy for you. And if you want to play this game, you can wishlist it on Steam right now. I'm happy to be proven wrong about this one too, but this is another one that I would fall on the side of skepticism on. This next game was totally my jam. Check this out.
Good morning, Scavenger. I can see you have already gotten familiar with your jetpack thrusters. Scan your surroundings to retrieve and recycle anything that could be of value to Scavex. Oh, I see you have met your predecessor. You were not supposed to see that.
So this game is called Space Trash Scavenger, and it looks to be centered around exploring different planets and asteroids, salvaging scrap and building bases. It looks like such a fun game and has all the survival sandbox type of mechanics that I think would make for such a cool setting, being space and building all these different bases and going to different planets. It has a really cool aesthetic, art style and vibe to it, and I'm just really keen to just try this one out. And if this game piqued your interest too, good news, you can wishlist it on Steam right now, but at the time of recording there is still no release date. The next game that we would see was Lysfangha, the Timeshift Warrior. This is a top-down hack-and-slash action game which has this really cool celestial art style, and I'm interested to see more about this. The trailer was pretty much just gameplay showing off the hack-and-slash combat from this top-down view, and I think it's really cool, and it's being developed by SandLand Studio and being published by Quantic Dream. There is currently no release date for this one either, but it is available to wishlist through Steam if you are interested. Okay, so the next one, the next announcement, it was the latest EA Originals game, the Immortals of Aveum, and this game, its gameplay looks like it could be a ton of fun. One thing that I wish they showed was a consistent string of gameplay, because I noticed that they'd continue to cut between different segments of like a level, and it didn't seem like they just had like it play out for 5 minutes. I would have much preferred that than them just fading to black and having the character in a different area doing different stuff. Also, one thing that I noticed that felt a little off to me was the flow and movement. It was as if you were moving at a snail's pace, but then you had all these like mobility abilities, kind of like a grapple hook to zip around, and I don't know, it just didn't really feel quite right, like just a little bit off. Maybe it was just the way that footage was recorded, maybe I'm just missing something here, but overall the game does look visually pretty nice. And the fact that you can Kamehameha many different enemies is pretty cool, and that's a plus for me. I'll be interested to see how this one plays out, and overall I'm really hoping that this one does well, as EA recently have been delivering some quality single player experiences. And for everyone who's interested, Immortals of Aveum arrives on all platforms except the Switch on July 20th. Okay, so we're finally here, the big reveal, the moment to close out the show, the thing that we've all been in anticipation for. So when I heard Jeff say the rumors are true, the first thing that popped into my head was the Persona 3 remake. However, once the trailer started to roll, I was like immediately surprised. I'm like, oh damn, this is Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. They actually had it. It's actually here at the show. So the show would close off with another look at Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, the second part in the Final Fantasy VII Remake trilogy. So the game would show off glimpses of combat and exploration, as well as tease many of the locations we'll be exploring in the story. There's no definitive release date for this one yet, but it is slated to arrive early 2024. So if you're looking forward to playing this, or you haven't caught up on the remake or even played Final Fantasy VII and you're waiting to dive in, you've got the rest of the year to do so, and I think that's plenty of time. So my thoughts on this are, I'm really excited. I fall into that camp of people that really enjoyed the remake, and despite many of the changes and Tetsuya Nomura just doing his thing where he just adds something and puts the and adds word into the game, he still made a pretty good, it was a pretty good game. The remake did a very good job, and I'm really interested to see what risks they take to change and elevate this story of Final Fantasy VII and take a new spin on it. We'll always have the classic Final Fantasy VII to fall back on, and I'm really keen to see what they do with this trilogy. I'm hoping in some way we can get one day some form of faithful remake of the original, but I'm really happy to see, and I'd like to see what they do here now with this second part of the trilogy. As for in the broader scheme of this showcase, it being the closing act, it is like I stated at the start. We were expecting games that we had already heard before. We weren't expecting anything crazy new to be announced that's never been heard before, at least I wasn't. So this being the big thing to close it off, I'm satisfied, and I think I'm pretty happy. It would have been great to actually get a date, but an actual soft release date is still pretty good, and I'll take that. And in closing, I think this whole showcase was actually pretty good. I know a lot of people were expecting more heavy hitters and crazy reveals, and from that angle, I can agree that this showcase could have had a bit more of a punch. But I don't think that it was bad by any stretch. We got to take a look at many different upcoming games that'll likely be releasing between now and the end of 2024. There was a ton of new games here, roughly 30 that I've covered in this video. Overall, I enjoyed the showcase, and I hope that you enjoyed the video. If you've made it this far, maybe consider subscribing. I'll be covering most of the upcoming showcases, and I'll have a few different reviews, and I also do retrospectives, and occasionally I like to dabble with analysis stuff when I have a good topic. But I'd like to do a lot of different things here, and I love video games, so if you do too and you want to discuss them and chat, leave a comment down below, and if you're feeling really generous, maybe consider subscribing. Anyways, thanks for watching and have a good one. I'll see you guys later.